So, uh, imagine you've been diligently saving up in a local Stokvel for, I don't know, like 10 years. You walk into your monthly meeting, you're ready to check the group's funds, and the person holding the physical notebook with all the financial records well, they just shrug and say, I lost the book.
Oh, man.
Or even worse, you look at the ledger and someone has literally taken a bottle of Tipex to your name, erased your contributions, and written their own name right over it.
Right. I mean, it's a scenario that hits incredibly close to home for so many people. That immediate sinking feeling of realizing you put your absolute faith in one person or one institution to hold the truth, and they just completely let you down.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this right now, especially here in South Africa, you don't just know that feeling from a Stokvel.
Yeah.
You know it from interacting with municipalities or, state-owned enterprises and just these massive centralized institutions.
Oh, absolutely.
We are constantly asked to trust that the people holding the ledger, like the asset registries, the tax records, the title deeds, we just have to trust that they're keeping it safe and accurate. So today, we are taking a deep dive into a technology designed to make that exact vulnerability mathematically impossible.
Which is so needed right now.
Yeah, we are talking about blockchain,
Yeah.
but we are stripping away the cryptocurrency jargon, the Bitcoin hype, and all the tech bro noise.
We really have to, because the real story here is it's so much more fundamental. We're looking at a technological infrastructure that is quite literally built to democratize trust. I mean, it is designed to replace blind faith in centralized authorities with actual mathematical certainty.
Let's use that Stokvel to understand the mechanics of this, because the core concept is actually, it's quite elegant. Let's say our traditional Stokvel has 50 members,
Yeah.
right? And one treasurer with one notebook.
Right, the classic centralized system.
Yeah. And if the treasurer gets robbed or decides to, cook the books, the entire group is compromised.
Exactly. So the blockchain alternative is a decentralized digital version of that exact same gathering. But instead of one treasurer holding the book, imagine every single one of the 50 members holding their own identical copy of the notebook.
And when a new transaction happens, say, I put in my 500 Rand for the month, I don't just tell the treasurer, I announce it to the entire room. But everyone checks my money, verifies the transaction, and then all 50 people write that exact same transaction down in their individual notebooks at the exact same millisecond.
Yes, that synchronicity is the bedrock of the whole system. Every notebook updates simultaneously. So if we translate that to the real world, the notebook is a digital ledger of data, and the 50 members of the Stokvel are thousands of computers, known as nodes, distributed all over the country and all over the globe.
Wait, I actually have to pause you right there, because the moment you tell a South African that a system relies on thousands of computers running constantly to stay alive, you're going to get a very cynical laugh.
Fair point, fair point.
I mean, if we are talking about moving crucial infrastructure like a municipal asset registry onto a network of computers, what happens during stage 6 load shedding? What happens when a major data center in Johannesburg just goes dark, or a municipal server gets hit by a ransomware attack? Doesn't the whole digital Stokvel just, collapse?
Well, no, and that is the beauty of a decentralized architecture. In a traditional centralized system like when you walk into a branch of Home Affairs and hear the system is offline, that happens because there is a single point of failure.
Well, we all know that phrase.
Right. If the main server in Pretoria loses power, the entire national network goes down.
Right. Everyone just stands in a queue looking at blank screens.
Exactly. But a blockchain network doesn't live in one server room. It lives on all those thousands of nodes simultaneously. So if rolling blackouts hit Johannesburg and take 200 nodes offline, the network doesn't even flinch.
Wow, really?
Yeah. The identical copies of the ledger are still being updated and maintained by nodes in Cape Town, London, Tokyo, and New York.
Because it's a global web, not a single pillar.
Precisely. It is incredibly resilient by design. I mean, even if a targeted cyber attack takes down a massive cluster of computers, the rest of the network just keeps humming along. As long as some nodes remain active, the historical truth of the data remains accessible, intact, and continuously updated. There is literally no central plug to pull.
Okay, the resilience makes sense. But if the data is living on thousands of different computers, and anyone can theoretically host a node and keep a copy of this digital notebook, I'm thinking about human nature here.
Oh, always a good idea.
Right, like, What stops me from taking my digital copy, secretly adding a few zeros to my own balance, and just trying to pass that off as the truth?
This is where we move from the structure of the network to the actual cryptography that secures it. Because if a decentralized system isn't strictly secured, it just devolves into shared chaos, where everyone is arguing over whose notebook is the real one.
Right, to understand how it prevents this, let's look at how data is actually written into this system. Think of trying to secretly rewrite a sentence in a famous published book. Let's say you want to change one line in Long Walk to Freedom.
Okay, I like this analogy.
To actually make your fake version the accepted reality, you can't just cross out a sentence in the copy on your bookshelf. You would have to somehow break into the homes of millions of readers globally and alter that exact sentence in every single physical book at the exact same millisecond without anyone noticing.
Which is, a logistical impossibility. And on a blockchain, that physical impossibility is enforced by cryptographic hashing. Let's break down how that mechanism actually works because it's vital. Imagine a hash as a unique digital fingerprint for a specific block of data.
So if a block is a page in our notebook, the hash is a fingerprint of all the text on that page.
Yes. When a block of transactions is filled up and confirmed by the network, a complex mathematical algorithm scrambles all that data and spits out a fixed string of letters and numbers, the fingerprint. And here's the genius part. That fingerprint is incredibly sensitive.
How sensitive?
If you change even one single comma, like one tiny digit on that page, the algorithm spits out a completely different fingerprint.
Okay, but couldn't a hacker just generate a new fingerprint for their altered page?
They could, but here is the trap. Every new block that gets added to the chain contains the digital fingerprint of the block that came immediately before it. They are mathematically locked together.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, if you go back in time and change a transaction in block 50, you instantly alter block 50's fingerprint. But block 51 was built using the original fingerprint of block 50. So now the math in block 51 is broken, which breaks block 52 and block 53.
Wow, it creates a domino effect of mathematical errors.
Exactly. And when the thousands of other computers on the network see that your copy of the ledger has broken math, they automatically reject it. They reach a consensus that your notebook is a fraud, and they just ignore it.
So to successfully cheat, a hacker would have to rewrite block 50, recalculate the fingerprints for every single block that came after it, and convince more than half of all the computers on the global network to accept this fake history, all before the next block is generated.
Which, with current computing power, is mathematically near impossible. It's an impenetrable digital vault. And if we apply this mechanism to the South African context, we are looking at the ultimate weapon against corruption.
Right. Particularly in the realm of public procurement. Think about the classic methods of tender fraud. A common tactic is double invoicing, or, someone going into a centralized municipal database and retroactively deleting the record of a tractor being purchased just so that they can walk away with the physical machine.
Or changing the amount paid to a contractor months after the fact to skim the difference. If a municipality's asset registry or treasury was operating on a blockchain infrastructure, an official simply couldn't do that. You cannot go back and TIPX out the tractor. The network would immediately flag the altered mathematical signature and reject the change. The historical record is immutable. It cannot be tampered with, even by the people who built the system.
Oh, wait, I'm trying to wrap my head around a bit of a paradox here. We're calling this an impenetrable, cryptographically locked vault. But at the same time, the whole point of this system is that it's a shared notebook. Everyone has a copy.
Yes.
If I can download a node and look at the blockchain right now, doesn't that mean I can see everyone's financial business? How is it secure if it's entirely public?
It's a really common point of confusion, and the answer lies in separating identity from action. The cryptographic locks we just talked about secure the validity of the data. They ensure the math is correct and untampered with. But they also protect the real-world identities of the users through cryptographic keys.
Oh, so you don't see my name, ID number, and home address.
Right. You might operate on the network as Wallet A, which just looks like a random string of characters, but the actions of Wallet A, the history of transactions, are completely visible. Anyone looking at the ledger can see that Wallet A sent 10,000 Rand to Wallet B on Tuesday at 4:00 p.m.
Got it.
The movement of the value is public, but the human identities behind the wallets remain private unless they choose to reveal them.
Okay, so the action is naked, but the actor is masked. Think about what happens when you mandate transparency for government actors then. What if the wallet in question isn't a private citizen, but the national treasury.
Then you unlock what auditors call the real-time audit dream.
Let's ground this in reality for the listener. Think about the disaster relief funds allocated after the catastrophic KZN floods. We all remember the outrage. Billions of rand were allocated for rebuilding, and yet months later, communities were still sitting without housing or infrastructure, and investigative journalists were trying to trace where the money vanished to through layers of opaque subcontractors.
It's a tragic cycle. Money disappears into a black box of middlemen and centralized spreadsheets.
But imagine if the Treasury wallet was known to the public, and the relief funds were distributed on a public blockchain. If you are listening to this, you wouldn't need to wait 3 years for a massive judicial commission of inquiry to tell you where the money went. You, literally from your laptop or smartphone, could look at the ledger.
You could watch in real time as the funds moved from the Treasury wallet to the provincial government wallet, down to the specific wallet of a supplier contracted to buy building materials.
Right, and if the money suddenly took a detour into a wallet associated with a luxury car dealership instead of a cement factory, the entire country would see the transaction the second it happened.
Exactly.
It completely eliminates the blind trust equation. We don't have to trust that a politician is telling the truth at a press conference. We can verify the cryptographic proof of the funds movement ourselves.
It forces accountability into the open. But to really grasp the scale of this technological shift, we have to move beyond just tracking money.
This is where the concept genuinely expands, because a blockchain is ultimately just a secure way of recording truth. And truth applies to a lot more than just digital cash, right?
Definitely.
If we can use this complex math to immutably prove that money moved from point A to point B, we can use that exact same math to prove the ownership and movement of physical assets.
Right, so let's tackle property rights, because in South Africa, this is a deeply emotional, historically complex issue. The current system for title deeds and land registry is fundamentally flawed because it relies heavily on paper records and centralized municipal offices.
We see this constantly with RDP housing allocations or township title deeds. Families wait decades for formal recognition of their home. And when they finally try to claim it, there's a dispute. They go to the deeds office, and the physical file is just gone. Lost in a fire, misplaced by a clerk, or intentionally destroyed.
It is the ultimate vulnerability of the single notebook. If the notebook burns, your proof of ownership burns with it. Blockchain tokenization solves this at a structural level.
Explain tokenization for a moment. How does a brick-and-mortar house become a digital thing?
Think of tokenization as creating a digital twin of a physical asset. A unique, non-duplicable digital certificate, a token, is minted on the blockchain to represent that specific plot of land or that specific RDP house.
And that token contains all the data, like the GPS coordinates, the dimensions, the legal history.
Exactly. When the municipality allocates that house to a family, they transfer that token to the family's digital wallet. In the eyes of the system, holding that token is holding the legal ownership. And because that transaction is recorded on the decentralized ledger, the proof of ownership is distributed across millions of computers.
So if the municipal building burns down, or a corrupt official tries to assign your house to their cousin by altering a database, it literally doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. The citizen holds the cryptographic proof in their wallet, and the global network mathematically verifies that they are the true owner. No lost paper file can undo a mathematically verified title deed. It creates a permanent, unshakable bedrock of property rights for citizens who have historically been the most vulnerable to administrative failure.
That shifts the power dynamic entirely. The citizen holds the truth, not the clerk at the desk. Let's look at another sector where proving the truth of a physical object is incredibly difficult. International supply chains. South Africa is a massive exporter of agricultural products.
Oh yeah, wine from the Cape, citrus from Citrusdal, macadamia nuts from Mpumalanga.
Right. And let's say I'm a farmer in Citrusdal, exporting organic oranges to a high-end supermarket in Berlin. The consumer in Germany wants to know 3 things. Is this actually from South Africa and not counterfeit? Is it genuinely organic? And were the farm workers paid a fair wage?
Currently, proving that involves a mountain of physical paperwork, certificates of origin, organic inspection sheets, export licenses, and every time that pallet of oranges moves from the farm to the truck to the port in Cape Town, onto the ship, into European customs, a middleman has to stamp a piece of paper, and the next person in line just has to trust that the previous stamp isn't forged.
I have to play devil's advocate here, because this is where the digital world hits the physical world. How does a mathematical ledger know if a physical orange is organic? A computer network can't taste a citrus fruit or inspect a farm.
That's true.
Right. So if a dishonest farmer sprays illegal pesticides and then clicks a button on a blockchain saying this is organic, isn't the blockchain just securely recording a lie?
That is a phenomenal question. It's what technologists call the oracle problem. How do you get truthful, real-world data onto the blockchain? You are right. The blockchain doesn't magically inspect the farm. What it does is guarantee the absolute immutability of the record of the farm, and it removes the ability to forge documentation after the fact.
How so?
By integrating with real-world sensors and the Internet of Things, let's trace that pallet of oranges. An independent organic inspector visits the farm, takes soil samples, and issues a certificate. Instead of a paper document, that certificate is logged directly onto the blockchain with an unchangeable timestamp.
So the farmer can't alter the inspector's report.
Right. Then, the pallet of oranges is loaded onto a truck. The pallet has a GPS and temperature sensor attached to it. Every hour, that sensor automatically pings the blockchain, recording the exact location and temperature. It's automated. A human driver can't tamper with the log. When it reaches the port, the customs official logs the export clearance onto the blockchain.
Every step is a new, cryptographically locked block of data added to the history of that specific pallet.
So by the time that consumer in Berlin picks up a bag of oranges and scans the QR code on the label with their phone, they aren't looking at a piece of paper that could have been photocopied in a back room. They are looking at the immutable, mathematically verified digital history.
That's incredible.
They can see the timestamp of the independent inspector, the exact temperature route of the shipping container, and the customs clearance. The blockchain securely binds the physical journey to a transparent digital record.
It bridges the gap between the physical good and the digital proof. That has massive implications for local farmers trying to prove their premium quality on a global stage without being undercut by counterfeiters. Okay, we have covered property and supply chains. There's one final, incredibly vital area we need to explore regarding the South African economy, and that is cross-border remittances.
The movement of money across regional borders, this is an absolute lifeline for millions of people across the African continent.
Think about a migrant worker living in Johannesburg who needs to send 1,000 rand home to their family in Zimbabwe or Mozambique or Lesotho. The traditional banking system is notoriously punitive when it comes to these relatively small cross-border transfers.
It is slow, and it is extortionately expensive, and it helps to understand why it's expensive. When you send money through a traditional bank to a different country, the money doesn't just beam across the border. It has to hop through a network of correspondent banks.
It's like taking a flight with 3 layovers instead of a direct route.
Exactly. The South African bank has to communicate with a clearinghouse, which might route the transaction through a major banking hub in London or New York, which then communicates with the destination bank in Harare.
Just a massive chain.
Yeah, and at every single hop, a centralized institution is updating their respective ledger, taking a processing fee, and taking a cut on the currency exchange rate.
It's middlemen all the way down.
Which is why a transaction can take 3 to 5 business days to clear, and why the fees can eat up 10, 15, sometimes 20% of the money being sent. The people who can least afford it are paying the highest premium just to move value.
This is where the true utility of a decentralized network shines, because blockchain enables true peer-to-peer transactions.
It strips away every single middleman. If that worker in Johannesburg uses a blockchain network, often utilizing stablecoins, which are digital tokens pegged to the value of a fiat currency like the US dollar, to avoid price volatility, they aren't relying on a bank in London to approve the transfer.
They are simply sending digital value directly from their digital wallet on their phone, straight into the digital wallet of their family member in Harare.
The thousands of nodes on the network verify the math, confirm the worker has the funds, and lock the transaction into the ledger. It happens in seconds, not days. And because there is no massive corporate infrastructure taking a cut at every hop, the transaction fee is usually a fraction of a cent.
It completely bypasses the legacy financial gatekeepers. That is the definition of financial inclusion. It makes the movement of value accessible to people who have historically been excluded from or actively exploited by the formal banking sector.
It treats a transfer of 100 Rand with the exact same mathematical efficiency as a transfer of 100 million Rand. The network just doesn't discriminate.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today on this deep dive, from Stokvels to shipping containers. Let's bring this all together for you, the listener. If there is a core takeaway from diving into these concepts, it is that we have to fundamentally upgrade our vocabulary. We have to stop thinking of blockchain merely as the casino where people gamble on cryptocurrency.
It is a limiting and ultimately distracting view of the technology.
What we are actually looking at is a profound shift in foundational infrastructure. We're talking about a technology that has the potential to decentralize and democratize trust across the entire spectrum of society. Whether we are talking about auditing KZN flood relief in real time, securing your grandmother title deed against administrative failure, proving the origin of a citrus stole orange, or sending money home without being robbed by wire fees.
If I were to distill the impact of this entire deep dive into one paradigm shift, particularly for the South African context where trust in centralized authorities is so heavily fractured, it would be this. This technology offers a tangible way forward. It allows society to move away from the anxious, often disappointing question of who do we trust, and replaces it with the empowering question of how do we mathematically verify the truth?
How do we mathematically verify the truth? That is a completely different way to interact with the institutions that govern our lives. And it leaves you with a final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your week. We started this deep dive by picturing a communal notebook that everyone holds, where no single person can dictate the truth. If this technology truly makes it possible to mathematically verify every single public rand spent and cryptographically secure every title deed issued, what happens to the massive power dynamics of our traditional institutions when everyday citizens begin demanding mathematical proof instead of just taking their word for it?
It shifts the balance of power back to the public.
It really does. Thank you for diving into the mechanics of truth with us today. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.